Welcome to round 3 of the 2024 South African Rally Raid Championship, where all the action is brought to you by Toyota, hashtag Team Hilux Rally Raid, Ford Castrol, and ICAM. This is the big one of the largest motorsport races on the African continent. It covers a full 1,000 kilometers of harsh African terrain over a period of 3 full days. And although we've already seen some racing action, we're just getting started. Welcome back to the second installment of the Toyota Gazoo Racing SA Safari 1000. We are back at Kudusco Primary School, a few kilometers south of the bushveld and mining town of Thabazimbi in the Limpopo province. The venue was also used for the final race in 2023, with spectators and racing crews liking it so much that the decision was taken to make the premier event on the 2024 calendar. The area boasts a good variety of cross-country terrain with a good blend of open farmland stretches on the banks of the mighty Crocodile River, mixed with very tight and narrow bushveld and even mountain sections on game farms, doing justice to its name of the Safari 1000. As the name suggests, the race was to be contested over almost 1,000 kilometers. Regular viewers would know that we brought you all the action from the opening day of the Safari 1000, in which racing crews had the opportunity to tackle the first few kilometers of the race. And after the Friday of the event, this is how things stacked up at the top of the leaderboard. Former champions Henk Laatgan and Brett Cummings were back where they feel they belong, and that is at the top of the standings. The TGRSA crew had a 2-minute advantage over teammates Janelle de Villiers and Alvin Vonk, while both Toyotas were in the crosshairs of the chasing Ford squad, consisting of defending champs Gareth Woolridge and Boyd Dreyer, and brother Lance Woolridge and Kenny Gilbert. Times were still fairly close, with a number of top drivers in hot pursuit, such as Guy Bottrell, the Blicknow brothers, Brian Baragwanath and Horst Prinsloo, with the smaller wheel cars of Besson and De Bruyn rounding out the provisional top 10.
They call it the sponsor's curse. You put your name to an event, but in the end, you don't end up winning. Will that be a case this time around when it comes to the Toyota Gazoo Racing Safari 1000? Well, I tell you what, Henk Laatgan and Brett Cummings are doing their absolute best to break the hoodoo.
There's no wind, the leaves aren't moving on the trees, and even the cars just coming in on the small dirt road are making enough dust to make it difficult. So I think we're happy to be first on the road.
It was obviously still early days, but a good start for the Toyota Gazoo Racing squad in their quest to break the sponsor's curse as teammate Janelle de Villiers occupied second position. Can the man catch his teammates and keep the Fords at bay?
Anything's possible. Try and do our best, drive at a good pace.
Motor racing can be unpredictable at the best of times, but one thing was certain, the brothers in their Fords were as determined as ever to take the fight to the Toyotas.
We got a bit of time to make up to Henk in the front, but he didn't have a puncture yesterday, we both did, so that's the difference at the moment.
So the stage was set once again for an epic battle at South Africa's toughest race, and this is what the crews had to face in day 2 of the Safari 1000. Stages 2 and 3 of the event, totaling around 400 kilometers on farmlands and bushveld around Kudusco, with the ever-present Crocodile River never far away. At 8:30 it was go time when the flag was waved to send the first of the remaining crews on their way. As overnight leaders, that crew was none other than Henk Laatgan and Brett Cummings. The former champion was on a mission to finally break the curse and win a sponsor's own event. But nearly 800 kilometers and 2 days of racing still remained. Teammates De Villiers and Vonk started their challenge just 2 minutes later from behind the wheel of the sister TGR Hilux. In most cases, it can be a bit of a disadvantage to be one of the first few cars on the road, as it is sometimes tricky to find the actual route. But everyone was expecting heavy dust to fill the air throughout the race, with not a lot of wind to blow it away. So further up the order was better. Having said that, it didn't take long for the 2 Ford Rangers, who started in 3rd and 4th respectively, to encounter the first bits of the day's dust. But that is part of Rally Raid racing, and the race was on. And what a race it turned out to be, depending on who you ask, of course. Things did not go according to plan for the defending champions Gareth Woolridge and Boyd Dreyer, who had high hopes after starting the day within striking distance of the lead. The NWM Ford Ranger was crippled by a broken side shaft. Woolridge attempted to drive it out in two-wheel drive, but eventually had no choice but to make repairs in the bush, dropping them down the order and out of contention. And straight into contention went Guy Bottrell and Dennis Murphy. The TGRSA crew started the day in 5th, but Bottrell had a blistering run over the day's first few kilometers to move himself up into 2nd overall, leapfrogging both Fords and his teammate Janelle de Villiers in the process. It was very close, however, as the gap between Bottrell in his current 2nd place and the fight between the Ford of Lance Woolridge and Janelle de Villiers for the 3rd spot was only about 30 seconds. And through all of this, the Century Racing CR7 of Brian Baragwanath and Leonard Kramer managed to join the fight as they made up a number of positions to move into provisional 5th spot halfway through the day's racing, with the Blicknow brothers for Sheehan Batters in hot pursuit in their hashtag Team Hilux Rally Raid Hilux just a minute back. It was in fact extremely good going for all the members of the Team Hilux squad during stage 2 of the race, as teammates Johan and Van der Horn from Malalaan also joined the fight to move to within striking distance of the Blicknows, while the 3rd Team Hilux car of Urban Bassan and Leander Pienaar not only moved up into 8th position overall, but also extended their advantage in the Adventurer T1 class. Next up, a 3rd NWM Ford Ranger in the hands of Horst Prinsloo and Andre Vermeulen, who were driving well to occupy a spot in the overall top 10 in this crucial part of the race, with a fairly comfortable margin over the newlyweds Dave and Tessa Klaassen and their Redline Revo GTR. But at the front of the field, it was all about Henk Latingan and Brett Cummings, who managed to extend their overall lead from 2 minutes to around 3.5 minutes after the morning's first stage. A perfect performance from the former champions. And with that, it was time to visit the designated service park for a welcome and well-earned 30-minute break. That's a break and chance to catch a breather for the respective drivers and navigators, but not for the technical crews, who only have 30 minutes to service and repair whatever they can in order to prepare the racing machinery for the next 200 kilometers of punishment. It also meant time to catch up with the main players in the overall race. Janelle de Villiers was cool, calm and collected despite losing an overall position or 2.
We lost some time on Henk and them, but I sort of expected that. So, yeah, we'll see now. 2nd loop.
The man on the move was Guy Bottrell.
Yesterday we got a puncture that really hurt us, so I just decided in the really rough technical stuff, just take it a little bit easy, and it seems to have paid off a little bit.
Lance Woolridge was flying the flag for Ford and up into 3rd.
A really nice route. When we got into the newer section from yesterday, really enjoyed it, nice and flowing, and I think we made our time up there.
This is Gareth Woolridge reflecting on what had dropped him out of contention.
Frustrating, we snapped the drive shaft off the start line. We carry a spare, but luckily we thought we might lose more time changing it, so we drove for a while, 2-wheel drive, and then we decided to stop and change it.
And a good stage for Century's Brian Baragwanath.
Yeah, no, very nice. Beautifully marked and a nice mix of fast and twisty.
Leading the way, none other than Henk Latingan, but it was by no means plain sailing for the rally leader.
We had a closed gate that we had to stop for. Brett jumped out and then opened it. Took him, I don't know, probably just over a minute.
Well, it's been a fantastic event so far for Toyota Gazoo Racing in their very own event, the Toyota Gazoo Racing Safari 1000. As you can see, the pits are completely empty, reason being all the cars are safely back out on the road.
And onto 180 kilometers of stage 3 we go. It's an exact repeat of stage 2 from earlier in the day, but this time with a clean set of tracks to follow. Everyone would have seen every corner by now, which means that the pace was about to heat up once more. With the South African Rally Raid Championship regarded as one of the, if not the best national championship in the world, and with a few important international eyes taking a good look at the TGRSA Safari event, a good finish is a must for every team, let alone a top 10 or even better, a podium. The obvious problem is that there are only 10 spots available in the top 10 and even fewer on the podium, so a few of the faster runners are always going to lose out. Such an example was former champion and racing stalwart Chris Visser and Navi Blicky Sventer, whose Redline Revo GTR suffered a broken rear differential early in the race that forced them to return to the pits to have it replaced. The team will have to fight their way back from the back of the field on the last day. And after not being able to complete the first day, Daniel Schroeder and Ryan Bland in their brand new and beautifully prepared WCT Amarok made it to the finish of the second day, albeit being the second last team on the results. Those were some of the crews who did not make it to the end of the day in the coveted top 10, but these were the ones who did. The Heinleins, in the form of Gerard and Rudy, are getting faster and faster with each outing. And so far, the Safari 1000 was no different. They completed stage 3 on day 2 in 10th position, but only 10 seconds behind the 9th placed Redline Revo GTR Dutch couple Dave and Tessa Klaassen. And that after more than 6 hours of racing. Ahead of the Klaassens, Vos Prinsloo and Andre Vermeulen continued their impressive run in the privateer NWM Ford Ranger to cement their 8th position overall. A few minutes behind the flying Team Hilux machine of Eben Besson and Leander Pinot, who are not only in the current 7th position overall, but also comfortably in the lead of the T1 Adventurer class. As one can imagine, the pace was getting hot at the front of the field, where the country's best drivers were fighting tooth and nail for a top-placed finish. And after showing great pace early on, a top finish was not meant to be for young Sahu Variawa and his French navvy Francois Cazelet. The TGRSA driver hit a ditch, causing some terminal damage to his Hilux and forcing him to the sidelines.
Right before the end, we were in the dust and there was a short left, which I didn't see. And we hit a ditch and just broke 3 dampers on compression. So
his teammates, on the other hand, were simply flying. Early on in the stage, Guy Bottrell and Dennis Murphy managed to move up into the overall 2nd position, ahead of De Villiers and the leading Ford of Lance Woolridge. But Bottrell's luck ran out when he too sustained serious damage to the Hilux's suspension after hitting a ditch. Making it safely to the end of stage 3 was the Team Hilux Rally Raid crew of the popular Horn brothers from Malelane, Johan and Vanna. The Horn brothers would have ended the day in 6th and around 40 seconds behind their teammates in the form of the Blicknow brothers, Fouchier and Battis, who were having a great run. But the Blicknows received a 20-minute time penalty after it was determined that they didn't come to a full stop in one of the route's many road crossings. This meant that their names tumbled down the order and elevating the Horn brothers up into 5th. At the halfway mark of the Fiat Safari 1000 race. We still had 4 of the front runners all fighting for the provisional 3 podium spots. These 4 crews consisted of no less than 2 TGRSA teams in the form of Janelle de Villiers and Henk Lategan, as well as the Century CR7 in the hands of Brian Baragwanath and the rapid NWM Ford Ranger of Lance Woolridge. This battle continued for the best part of 5 hours on the Saturday of the race, and when the flag was waved to signal the end of the day, it was Baragwanath and Kramer who had no choice but to settle for 4th at this crucial part of the race. The CR7 is perhaps more suited to more open and faster road conditions, but BB was giving a good account of himself here in the Bushveld. Someone who has achieved everything there is to achieve in the sport is Janelle de Villiers, now with Alvin Fonk reading the notes. But the Dakar legend did not have things his own way on the 400 kilometers that made up the Saturday of the race. De Villiers started the day within striking distance of the overall lead and in 2nd, but lost valuable time as a result of a few flat tires that dropped him down from 2nd to 3rd at the end of the day. De Villiers' pain was Lance Woolridge's gain, as the Ford driver, who started the day in 4th, enjoyed a good, clean and fast day to move up 2 spots on the overall standings. The perfect place from where to launch an attack for overall glory on the final day. Except that the gap to the current leaders was around 2 minutes. The current leaders were none other than Henk Lategan and Brett Cummings. It has been a perfect race so far for the TGRSA driver, who would like nothing more than to break the sponsor's curse, and so far, so good. But there was still a long way to go. It was back to the DSP for the final night of the 2024 TGRSA Safari 1000. The remaining crews had now covered more than half the distance of this grueling race. And once again, it was time for the technicians to work their magic on the used and abused race cars, while the top drivers had a chance to reflect on the day's action. And what a day for Ford's Lance Woolridge, who is well within striking distance with just 1 day to go.
Yeah, today was good. It was demanding for the car for sure. And then, yeah, just really, really dusty.
The Woolridge name climbed the leaderboard at the expense of this man.
We had a bit of bad luck now the second loop. We had a double puncture at the rear. So still with 100 k's to go, we had to stop, obviously change both rears.
The Blickner brothers are quickly making a name for themselves in this adrenaline-filled sport in just their third year of being involved.
No, it was incredible. Well, see, I was on the notes and my brother was on the pedal, so everything went good.
Brian Baragwanath is, of course, a former winner of this marathon event when it was held in Uppington a few years ago, but looking forward to the rest of this year's event.
Very good, very good. Yeah, it was a really cool route today. And we're looking forward to tomorrow. I hear it's even tougher, so I can't wait to get started.
And here's the man who's led the race from start to finish.
Really tight and twisty, slippery, difficult to keep the car on the road. Lots of rocks, easy to get a puncture.
And that was that from Saturday and the second day of the TGRSA Safari 1000. We've seen one crew up against the sponsors' curse for 2 days and 3 stages consisting of more than 500 kilometers. But one full day and another 400 kilometers of tough and challenging terrain still remained. And this was it, the morning of the final day of the most prestigious race on the SARC calendar. The race that every driver wants to win most, including the man with the bit between his teeth. Let's hear from race leader Henk Lategan.
It's going to be difficult, so I have to keep maximum concentration to the end.
Well, there's no surprise. Henk Lategan and Brett Cummings lead the way going into the final day of the Toyota Gazoo Racing Safari 1000. It's been an exhilarating 2 days of action for them, but one more day to go, around 400 kilometers here in Thabazimbi, the third round of the championship. They'll be challenged by many, including the Fords of Kenny Gilbert and Lance Woolridge, who had an outstanding second day.
I think today's going to be the same thing. I think we just need to go out there and race our race. And just try and go as fast as we can and have fun.
The roads for stages 4 and 5 were even tighter than before, and that combined with even more dust made for a tough challenge to say the least. But these are the country's best rally drivers and some of the best rally raid machinery you'll find anywhere on the planet. So at 7:30 on the final morning of the TGRSA Safari 1000, the remaining crews all set off in 2-minute intervals to do battle one more time. The start order was the same as the standing, so for the second time in as many days, it was up to Lategan and Cummings to open the road, followed by the Ford of Woolridge and Gilbert, the second Hilux in the hands of de Villiers and Falk, and the Rapid Century CR7 of Brian Baragwanath and Leonard Kramer. That's how they started the final day, but that's not necessarily how it ended 400 kilometers down the road. More on the final battle a little later on, so let's first see how tough the 2024 Safari 1000 really was. As always, the marathon event again took its toll on the competitors, with only 21 teams managing to reach the finish. The ladies' team of Puck Klaassen and Carolyn Swan were the last team to receive the checkered flag with their Maverick car. 4 Century Racing teams made it to the finish, with the Dutch duo of Rick van der Brink and Geda Heymans completing their first marathon event in South Africa in 12th place. The Farmers Meet CR6 teammates of Eugene Bierman and Marius Lombard were 13th, while Louis Dupré and Joandre Creer were 16th, and William Battershill and Gary Campbell bringing their Century Racing CR6 zone in 18th place. In the Redline Motorsport camp, Philip Puerta and Gerard Skitter also received the checkered flag as the 15th finishers, with Pim Klaassen and Rickers Hutting in 19th. There was only one team to finish in the SSV class, with Jeff Minott and Rodney Burke in the Hydro Power Equipment Can-Am Maverick reaching the finish as the 17th overall despite multiple flat tires. The fight for the Adventurer T1 category podium also made it into the top 10. Well, for some, anyway. Johan de Bruyn and Adrian Ritz missed out on a class podium by just 89 seconds after bad luck late in the day. Their Redline Revo completed the race in 11th position overall, as they were beaten to the line by the trusty old Renault Duster, father and son Johan and Sean van Staden, who completed the Adventurer class podium. And second in class and 9th overall was a great result for the Heinleins, Gerard and Rudy in their Redline VK56 after a trouble-free race. We were now nearing the business end of the race, and finally a clean run for the man from Ermelo, Vos Prinsloo navigator Andre Vermeulen in the privateer NWM Ford Ranger. Well, almost a clean run. Vos was battling brake issues late in the race, but kept it clean and nursed the car home to claim an overall 8th place finish at the Safari. What's more is that this race also served as the Road to Dakar Challenge. Teams with Dakar aspirations could enter the Road to Dakar before the start, with a free entry into the 2025 Dakar Rally, the ultimate prize. And after claiming it, The man from Ermelo could well be on a plane to the Middle East come January. And what a race from all the members of the popular hashtag Team Hilux squad, who not only managed to finish the race, but in very credible positions too. The last of the squad to finish the race were the Horn brothers from Milan, who survived their fair share of frustrations like no communications for the best part of the last day, but still managed to finish 7th. And we know that everyone in the DSP is waiting to see what Ian Basson and Leander Pino are capable of if they ever get their bums in a big wheel Ultimate T1 Plus car. This pair is quick and comfortably won the category for smaller wheel cars, despite picking up a number of flat tires along the way. They were beaten to a 5th place finish by teammates Fouché and Bertus Blickno, who are getting quicker and quicker with every outing. They were slapped with a 20-minute penalty earlier in the race, but still finished in a career best 5th overall. A flat tire during the Castrol qualifier and a broken side shaft in the early stages of the race caused the 2023 Desert Race winners, Gareth Woolridge and Boyd Dreyer in the NWM Ford Ranger, to lose time and start further down the field. But this did not stop them of producing a sterling performance. They climbed their way back up into 4th overall on the final day, just missing out on the podium. It was almost time to dish out the final podium positions. The contenders, 2 Toyota Gazoo racing cars on their home event and battling the sponsor's curse in the form of Henk Ladekan and Brett Cummings, and Janelle de Villiers and Alvin Volk. The Century CR7 of Brian Baragwanath and Leonard Kramer, and the second of the factory NWM Ford Rangers in the hands of Lance Woolridge and Kenny Gilbert. 4 hopefuls, but only 3 places left. Something had to give, and then it did. It was a small bolt in the suspension of Janelle de Villiers' Hilux that failed, causing the Dakar legend and his lady navigator Fonk to spend most of the afternoon on the side of the road with the stricken car. It was the end of their challenge. This opened the door and placed into the hands of Brian Baragwanath and Leonard Kramer and their Century Racing CR7 to move onto the podium after a clean and trouble-free run, a brilliant drive by the Dakar star. And then there were 2. The age-old battle between Ford and Toyota. The battle that Ford managed to win during 2023, but on this occasion, Ladekan and Cummings were about to turn their fortunes around and break the dreaded sponsor's curse. The team romped home to claim the victory with a total race time of 12 hours, 17 minutes and 39 seconds for a flag-to-flag win after not putting a wheel wrong all weekend. They were delighted with the hard-earned result and their first marathon win, to say the least, as they could not dare to put a wheel wrong, as the NWM Ford of Lance Woolridge and Kenny Gilbert was never far away, despite a flat tire and a few anxious moments. 2nd place for the Ford. And here it is, confirmation of Ladekan's popular victory on Toyota's own event to finally break the sponsor's curse, with Lance Woolridge claiming a well-earned 2nd place finish. All finishes are in fact well earned, including the 3rd place by Brian Baragwanath. A great comeback from Gareth Woolridge to claim 4th. And a good showing for the Team Hilux squad, who occupied 3 spots in the top 7. And this is what it's all about, the sweet taste of success from the winner's podium at the country's biggest race. After taking a severe beating for more than 1,000 kilometers, the taste must have been bittersweet.
It feels awesome to have this one. It feels like a really, really tough desert race. Usually they're quite open and fast and it goes by quite quickly. This one was slow and tight and technical, and it took forever to get to the finish.
As the dust settles over the Limpopo Bushveld, Ladekan walks away as the new championship leader going into rounds 4 and 5 of the 2024 title race. The next one is the famous pro-race doubleheader. 2 races in 2 days. We're on the quaint little Free State town in the banks of the Vaal. See you in Parys on the 16th and 17th of August. All the action from the 2024 TGRSA Safari 1000 was brought to you by Toyota, hashtag Team Hilux Rally Raid, Ford, Castrol and ICANN, in association with the SARC.